Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm Josh Maddock. I'm the Executive Director of Stand Down, Faith, Hope, Love Charity. We work with homeless veterans and those at risk. I'd like to introduce Major Yopis. Give us a little welcome from the Boynton Beach Police Department.
Hi, good morning. I'll keep it brief. My name is Jason Yopis. I'm with the police department. This is impressive turnout. We're privileged to host this event. We really enjoy our partnerships and collaborations with the county. We're hoping that today's event will be a great educational experience, an opportunity for everybody to network and share ideas and improve our abilities to provide services to those most in need. Special thanks to Barbie for being our point of contact and liaison for putting this together. I know there's a parking issue right now. We're trying to resolve that, open up the back lot and accommodate a couple more cars. But if you guys need anything else, just reach out to me. And with that, I will let you guys kick off your meeting. Thank you again for this event. This is incredible.
Thank you so much for having us here. So Ali Severino was supposed to be here today, but I'm going to do her part. Please join me in welcoming Pastor Ray Whiteley. Pastor Whiteley is a dedicated community leader and the founding pastor of Trinity Counseling Center here in Palm Beach County. For more than 30 years, he has served as a pastor, organizer, and advocate, working tirelessly to support families, uplift those in crisis, and strengthen our community. Through his leadership in organizations across Boynton Beach and beyond, Pastor Whiteley continues to champion justice, unity, and hope. It is an honor to welcome him today.
Good morning. Let's bow our heads, please. Father God, we thank you for the breath of life this morning and new Friday morning mercies. You gathered us in this place for more than conversation. You called us for transformation. God, center our hearts now on what matters most. The people created in your image, lives that deserve dignity, communities that deserve hope. Your word reminds us in Isaiah 58, verse 10, and if you spend yourself in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in darkness and your night will become like noonday. Let this truth shape our purpose today. God, we thank you for every servant in this room who answered the call to show up. Leaders, advocates, volunteers, partners. Bless the wisdom they carry and the compassion that move their feet. As we sit at these tables, let every conversation be guided by your spirit, your love. Plan ideas that are practical. Build partnerships that are strong. Shape solutions that honor the humanity of those who we serve. Give us clarity in our thinking, courage in our decisions, and endurance to finish what we started. God, we also lift our neighbors who are suffering from homelessness. You know every name, every story, every silent prayer whispered in the night. Be their protection. Be their provision. Open doors that no one can shut. Lead them to stable housing, trusted support, and renewed confidence. Surround them with people who see their worth and walk with them towards lasting change. And as we share this meal in fellowship, unite us in shared responsibility. Let this initiative reflect wisdom, integrity, measurable impact. Move us beyond good intentions into focused actions that restore lives, strengthen community, order our words and our steps so that hope is no longer an idea, but a visible reality for those who need it most. We trust you and we love you, and we place this moment and all your people in your hands. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor. Today is about coming together to build on the momentum Palm Beach County has created over the last decade since the original 10-year plan to end homelessness. Last year's point-in-time count showed a 28.5% reduction in homelessness across Palm Beach County, which is an incredible achievement driven by collaboration, data, and commitment from the organizations and people in this room. But we know there is more work to do. Rising housing costs, legislative changes, and emerging challenges remind us that ending homelessness requires ongoing, thoughtful action. The goals for today are simple but powerful. Learn from each other, including who does what across our countywide organizations, understand the current state of homelessness, including the latest data and trends, hear success stories and solutions from neighboring counties, prioritize what matters most for the next 10-year plan through polling and breakout sessions. Leave with clear next steps, commitments, and a renewed call to action. By the end of the day, we aim to leave with fresh ideas, stronger connections, and concrete recommendations to make homelessness in Palm Beach County rare, brief, and non-recurring. On behalf of Palm Beach County and the HHA, we'd like to welcome Dr. James Green, Director of Community Services, to share a few welcoming words before we jump into our programming. Dr. Green.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is so awesome to see you here this morning. We have a lot of work to do, but I feel very encouraged by the people who are involved in doing the work and our ability to get the work done. I just want to begin by acknowledging the individuals and the team that organized this event. If you would just stand very quickly so that we can give you a big round of applause. So Ezra, all of the, Jennifer, all of you who are involved with organizing this event today. It's not lost upon me that it takes a lot of logistics and a lot of coordination to get this event to where you want it to be. And I hope that you really pay attention to the words and the content that will be delivered throughout the day, because it will lay the foundation for our next community plan and help us to become more agile as a system of care. It'll help us to be more strategic and to meet the moment that's before us today, because there are a lot of changes ahead. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge some of our elected officials that are in the room. So if you are an elected official, would you please just take a moment to stand? All right. Very good. Thank you so much. I see Erica Whitfield in the back, who is a member of the Homeless Advisory Board. She has been a phenomenal member, and it's very helpful in building the bridge between the county and the work that the school district is doing. And then, of course, Bobby Powell, Commissioner Powell, who was the former chair of the Homeless Advisory Board and continues to do the work. Most of the issues that we are experiencing occur in District 7. But we've also seen the most progress in District 7. I think the last point in time count showed like a 45% decrease in that district alone. And so we want to continue to engage with you, Commissioner Powell, in this work and other work as well. And then, of course, you're going to get a chance to hear from Commissioner Marino even more today. She is the current chair of the Homeless Advisory Board, and I am very excited about having her as the chair, because I love the way that she thinks and thinks critically about issues, getting right to the heart of it, but keeping people in the center of the work as well. And so thank you so much for being here as well. And so I know that Ezra only gave me 3 minutes and I'm already done, but I do want to just make sure that you know that today is about finding solutions. We have to continue to find ways to prevent homelessness from occurring. We have to continue to find ways to build more temporary and permanent housing solutions. We must continue to have a more coordinated approach to the work that we're doing because there are a lot of moving pieces. And we must understand that advocacy and policy are going to probably deliver some of our most significant results. And so we cannot leave the advocacy out or the policy work out as well. And I think as we come together today, we'll be able to lift up many of those things. And then I'm going to leave, but I do want to thank all of the Homeless and Housing Alliance for your continued work. And for all of you who are here today, I want to acknowledge Tammy Fields. Tammy, raise your hand if you would. I know you're somewhere in the room. Oh, there she is. Okay, she's taking a call. And I also want to acknowledge my community services staff and the Human Services and Community Action Team that's led by Wendy Tippett. Wendy, raise your hand, please. And for all of my staff that continue to do the work that you do, thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Green. Real quick, little program note. Bathrooms are out to the right. They're right over here. I want to introduce our MC, but I'm going to kind of slide through that because he's coming right back up. Ezra, our community organizer and tireless advocate for the homeless, and who put this thing together with help from others, but did a lot of great work. With that, let's move into our first session, Who Does What? With Jennifer and Ezra leading a panel and a participant quiz.
Where's Jen? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I don't think I need a mic. Oh, I do, okay. I wanted to show off a little bit, okay. Well, welcome everyone. We're really glad that you're here. We're particularly touched by the fact this is very trying times, just with headlines in the newspapers, as well as we've got a lot of cold weather right now, and there are a lot of folks in this room who are going to leave from this seminar today and go out and help bring our neighbors in need out of the cold. So thank you to all of you who have come today, and thank you all of you who are involved in this incredible work, and work that many times people in the community don't know about, but really touch a lot of people's lives. This session is Understanding Homelessness in Palm Beach County, the roles and challenges and collaboration of 6 very important organizations in our community. So we're going to have these 6 organizations come up, tell you a little bit about themselves and a little bit about how they work together, so that sometimes we get caught in alphabet soup where everybody, you hear all these different organizations and you're not quite sure what they do. Hopefully when we finish our session, you'll have a better understanding. So we'll start with Alex from the Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County, Linda Charles from the Partners for Housing. Linda? I saw you. There you go. Suzanne Cabrera from the Housing Leadership Council. Commissioner Marino from the Commission of Affordable Housing. Christina from the Homeless and Housing Alliance of Palm Beach County. And lastly, I'm sorry, I messed this up. I'm sorry, Nicholas Housing Advisory, I'm sorry. Yes, the Commission for Affordable Housing, I'm sorry, and I'm a member of that, and I messed up. All right, so what we're going to ask is each member, please, we'll pass the mic down. We're going to ask you to stand and answer 3 questions. That is, what is your mission and primary service? What is your target population and scope of work? And how do you measure success for your work? And we'll start with Nick. Please stand.
Hi, everybody. Nick Bixler, Commission on Affordable Housing, which I serve with Ezra, and Commissioner Powell sits on as well. It's a pleasure to be here. The CAH, as we call it, is a statutory created entity for the county that allows the steering of state money that we've referred to as SHIP dollars that come in for various programs or incentives that we kind of steer out to homeowners assistance, rental refurbishment, development assistance, things of that nature. So we kind of steer policy on how to direct that money that comes in from the state across the unincorporated parts of the county and municipalities without their own Commission on Affordable Housing. Kind of how we measure success and purpose is the direct number of homeowners we assist, renters we assist, and with the development community, the affordable housing units that we are able to help put on the market and increase supply.
Thank you, Nick. My name is Linda Charles. I am with Partners for Housing, Palm Beach County, also a member of the Commission on Affordable Housing. But today I'm representing Partners for Housing, Palm Beach County, which is a coalition of 12 nonprofit developers based in Palm Beach County. So the range is very diverse geographically, from the Glades to Boynton Beach, Lake Worth, and several of them might be here. The mission is really to work together, to work collectively and collaboratively to increase affordable housing production and delivery in Palm Beach County. So been in the business for a few years, work with many organizations individually that does great work. They are for sale housing developers, they are affordable rentals, true affordable rentals developers, and workforce housing developers in the group, and permanent supportive housing developers. So for affordable housing developers, most of them are public housing authorities and organizations like Adopt a Family, Lord's Place, and to some extent Community Partners of South Florida. They are all members. But we all know that it's different. It might be semantic, but to reach someone at 60% and below, you need a lot of work. So the 12 members came together to really, after many of them have worked for 20, 30 years, doing work that we're still missing the impact and the scale. So we believe collectively we'll be able to increase production, deliver better and more efficient services, and do work with other organizations to revitalize some of the community, and then maintain some of the housing stock that we have and the naturally occurring affordable housing. So my job is really to harness all these people together and figure out how they create a space for them to increase capacity, to deliver better services, to increase resources, and also research. Most of the nonprofit has a research arm. They do a lot of work, but nonprofit don't have the capacity to do that. So hopefully, with the help of membership, it's a membership organization as well. So if individuals are interested in joining us and believing in our mission, even for-profit developers and for-profit organizations will be glad to accept you. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Good morning, everyone. Alexandria Ayala Long, CEO of the Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County. It is so great to be with you all today. Thank you, Ezra, for having me. And we are very proud and happy to sponsor the breakfast and lunch today for all of you from the coalition, and hope you're enjoying that today. We are a 501c3 that is a fundraising and advocacy organization. So we were created to help be a collaborator within the scope and continuum of care organizations that exist in Palm Beach County, many of whom are represented up here and are in the room today. Our goal is to make sure that we are meeting gaps where they exist with our agency partners, many of whom are in the room today, including Vita Nova, the Lord's Place, Adopt a Family, Families First. I have many of them in the room today, but we try to meet the gaps where they exist for the continuum of care in our community, and I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Good morning, all. Thank you. I am County Commissioner Maria Marino. 2 weeks as the chair of the Homeless Advisory Board. So if I read notes, please bear with me. I was still writing in the car on the way here. And James Green, thank you so much for your help in this, and Commissioner Bobby Powell for doing this last year. The Homeless Advisory Board. Anybody ever hear of the Homeless Advisory Board? Anybody ever attend any of the Homeless Advisory Board meetings? Thank you very much, because I didn't know what the Homeless Advisory Board was. Now, as a county commissioner, you know, we sit on a multitude of boards. So thank you, Bobby, for doing this last year. My role as chair and what the board does is, it's simple. We're the county's arm to make sure that the continuum of care is happening. We started the 10-year plan to end homelessness. We are now on our third iteration of that 10-year plan. So obviously, we still need to have a plan because we're still here. But what the county has done in that time frame is we have HR, we have the Lewis Center, we have HRC2, we have Melissa's Place, and we have Prosperity Village. So there has been some movement forward in the homeless community where the county and the continuum of care and the nonprofits in the community have been trying to reach out and help that. We have a 14-member board made up of most of the agencies that are here today. So I do thank you for doing that, because sometimes I feel like we're just talking about the same thing we talked about last year, 10 years ago, and 20 years ago. So I hope if we come together and do this again next year, we've actually made some more headway. But it takes partnerships. It takes bringing the business community to the table, because I don't think we can do this or fund this without the business community. It takes the hospitals understanding that you can't treat and then street. We need to make sure that once someone has gone through the process and they're capable, they have a place to go when they go out of that facility. And it's talking to our faith-based community and saying, do you have property? Let's partner with you. So these are some of the things we can do. I'm hoping I have lots more pages. I didn't even read them. Aren't you impressed? But I have lots more pages of things that I'd like to share and questions that I'd like to ask you. So thank you very much.
Follow that. Susie Incabrera with the Housing Leadership Council, and our organization was formed really to work on policy issues, solutions, and do this through collaborations and partnerships. And we specialize on kind of harnessing the business community and really work to get them involved and make sure they know what's going on, because they really benefit from the work we do. And we do kind of the unsexy behind the scenes work, the policy work, things like the Sadowski funds, which brings over $11 million to our county, but this year we noticed that an unintended consequence will take $1.6 million of that away from our county. So we pay attention to issues like that, and we lean into new ideas and solutions like YIGBY, Yes in God's Backyard, and that's something that we're really working on, and you're going to be hearing a lot of exciting news about that. So if you have an idea, a policy that needs to be changed, some revenue, the $200 million bond was one of our initiatives. Just let me know, talk to me, and we'll try to get some traction on it.
Good morning. I'm Christina, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Homeless and Housing Alliance, the HHA. Our goal is to bring together providers and other stakeholders to deliver a comprehensive continuum of services to help break the cycle of homelessness in Palm Beach County. And so we serve as the coordinated arm that applies for and directs goals for funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. I'm trying to not use the alphabet soup, but that's HUD. We administer the continuum of care and the emergency solutions grants, that's COC and ESG. And we help set strategic goals to prioritize that funding, to make sure that services are streamlined, effective, not duplicated, and are prioritized based on need, because we know that the scope of the need does unfortunately outstrip the resources we have, but that's why we're all here today, to make the best use of those resources and grow those resources so that we can continue to achieve our goals. I'm so scared. You guys are scary, but I love you. And then our outcomes, how do we measure success? We do that through actually our point in time count every year. We measure on a given day how many people are experiencing sheltered and unsheltered homelessness, and our goal is for that to decrease as a whole and for those specific subpopulations that we track the trends for, such as older adults, people with substance use, veterans, and more. And who are we, the HHA? We can be all of you. Our stakeholders are healthcare, they're housing providers, they're faith groups, they're veteran groups, they're the business community, they're law enforcement. We are a collection of partners. We meet as a governance board every other month. I'll talk more about that at the end because we would love to see you all there. And we have subcommittees, and so we accomplish our goals that way. We provide emergency shelter, coordinated access, street outreach, permanent housing, transitional housing, and yes, more things. Thank you.
No, hold on to the mic. All right, so thank you all for those introductions. What I'd like to do is talk to each of you a little bit about what challenges you face. So we'll start with, actually we'll start with Suzanne since she's got the mic in her hand.
Oh, okay.
What does your organization find is the biggest obstacle in addressing homelessness and housing in Palm Beach County?
There's so many of them, but I think I'm going to point out the obvious one, funding. As I said, we think we're trucking along with like the state housing trust funds, and then we find the rural renaissance bill of all things is going to be responsible for reallocating funds. And as I said, our housing and economic development, if we don't do something about that, will end up being $1.6 million poor because of the reallocation. So we're always looking at things like that and making sure those streams of funding are coming in. We got so frustrated years ago with that we did the $200 million bond to provide some additional funding that we could count on because we got so tired of losing SHIP every year. So obviously that's a huge one, but we're also realizing that policy and regulatory issues can make a huge difference too. And that's why I'm so thrilled that we have the Commission on Affordable Housing and all the AHACs working around the state to make sure we look at those things and what time is money. How do we reduce time and cost less money, especially for the nonprofit developers? I think that they really don't have a lot to work with in that area, and we have to make sure it's an efficient, quick process. And now we're really excited about YIGBY, Yes in God's Backyard. We don't have any new land being made in Palm Beach County, but hopefully God will share some of that with us on the churches and faith-based communities. And there's a new law that means things can be passed administratively, which should be a real quick process through. So that, as I said, is something we're really going to look at because that could be, that's in their mission. I think this is a no-brainer that we work with the faith-based entities. I think most of their guidebooks put serving the homeless and the poor in there. So we're going to make sure they can readily do that. And we're working with GN, with Faith in Action, to make sure that can happen. So,
Great. Christina, same question. What do you find are the biggest obstacles in addressing homelessness in Palm Beach County?
I would find that the biggest obstacles as they are today, we have had some recent challenges with uncertainty in some of our funding that had historically been stable. So that hasn't quite posed, the fullest realization of the challenge yet because our funding for our federal programs was renewed for another year, but we aren't certain what types of services are going to be funded in the future and whether that's going to require a major shift in our orientation. For the past at least decade, Housing First and permanent housing have been a strong priority for federal funding, which does make up a lot of the bulk of the sustainable funding we can count on for homeless services. And when you're housing people, it does help to have funding you can count on because they're housed with you and are sort of dependent on that. So if we have to shift our orientation away from Housing First, which is where you put the priority on placing individuals in housing and then you work with them to address those barriers that may have been complicated by or contributed to their homelessness to help increase their stability, we're going to shift more towards that you have to from the get-go kind of stabilize the barriers and the issues and work on sobriety and medication compliance and things like that, and participating in programs. So that will be, it'll be a big shift because we'll have to reorient our programs. A lot of our programs that were transitional, were shorter term, were more stringent in requirements have gone away. So it's going to require some reprioritizing, some pivoting, and that's part of the feedback we hope to get from the group today, actually. So we're glad you're all here.
Super. Commissioner? Same.
I got
Same
pages and
question.
pages of notes.
Okay.
Okay, so pardon me for
Your
reading.
time's not, no, just kidding.
There's no timer. I do want to say, first off, that government can't do this alone. So I really, again, want to say thank you for all of you that are in the room, because I'm going to stand. Is that okay? I don't like to sit. But government can't do this alone. So again, thank you for all of you that are in the room. Biggest challenges, getting business to come to the table, because they're the ones with the deeper pockets. And again, what I said about the hospitals being involved. Some of our challenges too, from the county perspective, how do we keep people from being homeless? You know, that is something that I think is important. Don't put people out on the street if they don't have a place to go. Don't put someone out on the street because they're just one paycheck away from not being able to pay their rent. So how do we keep people from being homeless? How do we do responsible gentrification, which causes a lot of the affordable housing to go away? And so with all of business coming here and all of the demand on housing, the affordable housing is going away. So how do we protect against that? VA, the VASH vouchers. I know we need help in making sure that program sustains itself, and that we have caseworkers so that we don't send money back. So let's work on that, on caseworkers for that. All right, I'm turning the page. How do we address the crisis of other counties and other states and how they deal with homelessness? And are those counties and states putting people on buses and dropping them off in Palm Beach County? And if we're going to help someone in Palm Beach County, do we say you have to be a resident of the county for a year or 2 years? How do we prioritize who we help? You don't want to have to prioritize. Are we going to prioritize veterans or seniors or families or children? You don't want to have to prioritize people. But what do? A lottery system? I don't know. So I don't know if I'm giving you answers or more questions.
Probably more questions.
So I'll stop there. I got more, but I'll stop there.
Okay. Alex?
I'd say that the three biggest issues we face from our perspective at the coalition, first, it's policy, and that's at the federal, state, and local level sometimes. The changes, and I think Christina touched on it a little bit on the funding, right? The uncertainty of funding is certainly a concern, but it's also the uncertainty in the ever-changing landscape of how homelessness is treated in policy. How it's criminalized, how things are legal versus illegal, what counties should adopt in their laws to be able to be following state law. Last year's passage of the camping law was a massive blow to how we deal with how we approach and treat those facing homelessness. So I know all of you feel that very deeply. That's one pillar that we're trying to work on more at the coalition, and that's the advocacy piece of what we do. So working in tandem with the organizations that are our counterparts throughout the state of Florida and the coalition at the state level on the bills that we're following through the process as we're in legislative session right now. So there are a lot of bills of concern to what we do in our operations in the homeless community in Florida. That's a big concern because you can't follow a ball that constantly moves based on political whims every single week. That is very difficult. The second thing that we face is funding, right? Everything has a limit, and as cost of living has gone up, those that give can't give as much. One of our main priorities is fundraising. That affects what we're able to do. And then the third would be cost of living. one of the priorities that we have at the coalition is helping with a program we have called Creating Housing Opportunities, or CHO funding. So first month, last month security, which is one of the main points of help we provide to our partners who are in the room, that we're going to start disseminating very soon, and I'm excited to talk to you all in a couple of weeks about that. But that gets really hard. When 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I could house somebody for $3,500, and now it's $6,000, I can help less people unless I fundraise significantly more funds. So the cost of living and the affordability crisis that we're seeing throughout Florida, Palm Beach County, with the wealth transfer and all the change that's happening in our county so rapidly, I would say those are the three categories of difficulty that we face at the coalition, and I'm hoping to get good ideas and answers today from all of you and all of us working together.
Thank you. Linda?
Thank you. So as a nonprofit developer, I'm going to say, like everybody else has said, is funding. But I'm going to be a little bit more specific for the nonprofit developer. It's really the first end, pre-development and acquisition funding. We, the nonprofit developers, were doing, whether you're doing workforce housing, affordable rentals, for sale, we cannot compete with the for-profit developers. Because, you know, and for the nonprofit developers to do smaller projects, you know, nonprofit developers are the ones doing it. So if you're going to address the very low income, 60% and below, including ELI and homelessness, the production of that category of housing is only low income housing tax credit, and you only get one in the county every year. So we have to make sure that other nonprofit developers that are doing smaller rental projects are funded and are able to deliver those units. So that's number one challenge, funding and a regulatory process. How do we address higher density so we can achieve economies of scale and deliver those units at 60, 80, 30, 40%? So I see that for the nonprofit developer as the number one challenge. The other things that I will do is, for my previous life, when I work at Community Partners of South Florida, so we do special needs and permanent supportive housing. So before we even, my staff or the case managers goes to access first, last, and security, for 2 weeks or 1 week, there are no shelters. You cannot place people while they're waiting to get that money that can take a month or 2 months to get. There are no shelters. You cannot really place people. The organization that I represent here, you know, Adoptive Family, the housing authorities, and different. So even if you can access those units that they have, for that 1 or 2 weeks, what do we do? So my job was to try to work with the motel, to work with other people, to say, okay, house these people, pay for this person for at least 2 weeks until we get them to permanent supportive housing or even transitional housing, where Community Partners of South Florida have a transitional housing project where they house people. So that's probably one of very few that I know of. And the last thing that I will say, that's my personal opinion, we cannot solve affordable housing by building it without increasing income. So because in this state, you know, the area median income is $111,800. That's very skewed. The people that I work with, when I do level study, limited markets, that's what I was talking about the nonprofit getting capacity to do those research and study. When you look at census tract, some of them are making per capita is $25,000. How do you even address that? So I think the coalition or the collaboration between for-profit, non-profit, and everybody, but one thing that we really have to look at, how do we pay people to keep them here? So when we are looking at revitalization or even in the naturally occurring affordable housing areas, even then, the housing stock is bad. You have to deal with it. So I will say that those are the three things that I feel very challenging when you're working as a nonprofit developer in Palm Beach County.
Thank you, Linda. Nick?
Again, that's Commission on Affordable Housing. We look at incentives and policy that impact affordable housing. So we work with what we're given by the state. So, you know, that's an obstacle for us. But I can echo what everyone here on the panel said so far. But I think to summarize it in my belief is keeping up with demand, right? We are a growing county. We have growing population. If that demand continues to outpace the supply of homes, we're going to continue to see pressure on affordability and people being priced out of their existing homes and people being unable to find housing. So I think the biggest obstacle in my mind is keeping up with that demand, the cost to develop and the time it takes to develop to get those additional units on the market. So, I think that comes with looking comprehensively, land development codes, incentives, all sorts of things. How can we put those things together to address the housing numbers that we ultimately need to keep up with our growing population?
Thank you. Next, if you'll remain standing, what we want to do is, what are misconceptions that you think the public has about homelessness and about affordable housing that you think we need to address?
I think one thing in my personal belief too is that affordable housing is for people who are unemployed, right? And I think some of that is just a misnomer in how we have identified affordable housing in this society, right? We like to start to call it attainable housing, essential housing, things of that nature, right? Because it is so much more than people who are just unemployed, people who are working at minimum wages that are well below the area mean income. So I think that's a very big misconception that we need to deal with, because there are studies and cases where people who are living in cars, they're not homeless. They've chosen to give up their home to keep their car, to keep their job. So it's about getting all of those people, from people who are on the streets and homeless to essential workers, teachers, people who are living well below that area mean income, into housing that they can afford, that they're not sacrificing on other goods and services in their lives and for their family for the cost of housing. So that's what I got.
Linda, same question. What are misconceptions about homelessness and affordable housing that need to be addressed?
I think everybody think that it cannot happen to them. So if you're making $50,000 or less, or even $60,000 or less in Palm Beach County, you cannot afford a house. So we talk about the cost. The cost to build, whether or not you're getting the best GC, the cost is a cost. It's not going to get you anywhere. So I like to see not affordable housing, affordable financing. That's what I think about it. So for affordability, it's when you pay 30% of your income toward your housing. So if we did a little survey here, we probably see that most people pay a little bit more than 30% of income toward housing, whether you rent or own. So we have to understand what is affordability is in the first place, is what you pay toward your housing. Anybody that's paying more than 35% of their gross income, not net income, is cost burden. So that's one of the things that we have to try to believe across the board. And also, who are the people who are accessing affordable housing? Well, they are teachers. They are, one of the sessions that I attended it's like, even if you went to study and you become a lawyer in your first year, you can afford a house here. So we think we make a little bit more money than we actually do, and we don't think we believe we belong in that affordable housing category. So I think we have to educate ourselves about what affordability truly is. And that's one of the things when we're advocating as a group, as a people who actually work for, and then we don't think we believe in that category. Most of the stuff that I work with when I was at Community Partners actually was needed, the service that they're providing.
Super. Alex, same question?
What a morning to ask me that question. Anyone read some headlines? Yeah. Yeah. I'd say the biggest misconception is that there's handouts, or that this is misuse of funding to help people get back on their feet, or that this is a waste of funding, when every piece of data shows that catching this situation on the front end significantly saves more dollars than catching it after it's been in crisis. So we are dealing with political talking points that get in the way of what we know to be the true nature of this work and the true mission, right? And that's really challenging, because I'm all about having conversations for making life more affordable for people, for analyzing and looking at taxes, for doing things like let's save folks some money that have lived in the community a long time. And this is all umbrellaed by the property tax issue that we're facing in Tallahassee right now, and what that's going to mean for local government operations, which is a whole different animal. But I think the biggest misconception is that there is some kind of, fraud, waste, and abuse in social service operations. And that's being promulgated by individuals at the top of our state leadership. And that's a difficult thing to do when all of us in this room know the human beings that we work with, know the families that we work with, know the real stories of who we work with, juxtaposed with this narrative. And it's kind of like, we have work to do. This is the real work. Here's the audits. Here's everything we're talking about, right? So it's very hard to combat a narrative that wants to put these people in a box and in a corner as people that are undeserving or somehow, getting handouts for free for this support when we know how hard everyone works to get the support that we provide. So that's very, it feels almost like this battle where you're supposed to be all working together for the betterment of your community, but you're in this war of narratives with the very people that we look to for support. And I think that's a really negative place to be with social services spaces. I have not dug into the report deeply enough to understand how our operations come into play on that narrative yet, as it came out late last night to my knowledge. So I look forward to reading that, and I'm always open to conversations. But I think that at the local level and at the state level, we know that we have people that we need to take care of. We know that we have a growing population in Florida and in Palm Beach County. And with that are going to come challenges of growth. And that's our job, is to meet that need wherever it may be. And I would hope that everyone can get on the same page about what type of support it takes to do that and leave the narratives at the door and really focus on solution-driven conversations.
Maria?
Okay, I'm not really going to answer the question. I'm going to weave around it because we're probably all going to say pretty much similar things, but you did touch upon property taxes. So I'm going to do my public service announcement for property taxes at the moment. So there's an initiative up in Tallahassee to get rid of property taxes, and let me tell you why that's a problem. So if you own your home and you're homesteaded and you pay property taxes, thank you very much. 50% of your property tax dollars that we collect go to the sheriff. 22% go to fire. That leaves 28% of what you pay in property taxes going to services that are provided by Palm Beach County. Those services include anything we do in the way of funding for our youth services, for our community services, for our parks, for our beaches, for our roadway network. So that's my public service announcement of, if that ever comes to be something on the ballot in November, please don't support any initiatives that cut property taxes. There will be something, because you don't go to state and have this big fight and then nothing ends up happening. There will be something. If there's a balance of maybe a homestead exemption going from one house to another house, that I could be fine with that. We just have to know from a county perspective what the impact would be. But it's a big topic. And thank you for actually bringing that up. And that's my public service announcement of why you should vote no if someone asks you, do you want to get rid of your property taxes? So I do think that one of the biggest challenges that everybody has is communication. We need to make sure that everyone is at the table. This group, this family right here, we're always at the table. But who's missing from this room right now? Those are the folks that we need to make sure are here. Yep. And most of those folks are the business community. And the business community are the ones that are bringing the jobs, the high-paying jobs. Are they bringing low-paying jobs? Not necessarily. Why do they want to relocate here when everything else is expensive? So we've got to make sure that we protect the folks that are in their homes right now. We do make sure that we have dollars for first, last, and security to help them. We do, and you've heard me say it already, but it's keeping people in their homes. What can we do on the front end so we don't have the crisis on the back end? It's kind of like educating your youth on why you should be healthy so that you don't have to take care of them when they're old and they're not healthy. So it's a cycle that we keep talking about. And, as I said, we're now into our third 10-year plan. I don't want to be having this discussion in 10 years. So maybe that's the problem. And I didn't give you a solution. I apologize.
Suzanne?
This is such a tricky one to try to get the real message across, because I've been working in housing and homelessness for over 30 years now and never found anyone who wanted to be homeless and wanted what they're having. And I think we just have to change that perception that what if you didn't have that person to call when you were short on your rent, didn't have the circumstances or had so many issues, they were self-medicating. When you hear their stories, God, I would be too if I faced some of what they're facing. So I think we just have to keep talking about what the reality is. And I keep coming back to being here in Boynton. When I was at the Lord's Place, we had this family. Back then it was a family shelter, and the news wanted to do a story on a homeless family. And I was talking to one of the families I really loved. And she's like, well, we've fallen in hard times, but I don't know who you could get for that. Did not see themselves as homeless. They saw themselves as kind of having a bump in the road. So I think anytime we can really try to tell everybody we talk to what the reality of this is, that there by the grace of God go I, and really keep stressing that. So hopefully Yigby will start that again.
Christina?
The biggest misconception that hasn't already been said, because the ones that have been said are wonderful and really touch on key issues, is that there's a one-size-fits-all solution. That's a huge misconception, because anytime a new idea is landed on, or like a new to you idea, it's we should throw all the other things away and let's all go run and do this thing now. And our population that we serve at the Lord's Place and that we have attend our HHA, sadly we didn't get to have as many people experiencing homelessness here today, in addition to the business community. That's another group that's also missing today, mostly because of the cold weather mayhem that's going on for today and tomorrow and Sunday. But if they were here, you would see that they're not a one-size-fits-all. Some of them are, working people, teachers, people living in cars. Some of them are not teachers or working people, and, that's okay too. We have a really diverse group of clients that we serve. They have a variety of stories, and there's a variety of solutions that are needed to help them out of their homelessness. So all the programs here matter, and they're all important, and they're all going to be a fit for someone.
Okay, hold on to the mic.
Okay.
Last round of questions. Commissioner Marino talked about being here in 10 years and working on the next 10-year plan, and that's not what we want to be doing. So if you could just look in your crystal ball for just a second and tell us where you think we will be in 10 years and maybe where you hope we will be in 10 years.
I'll go with where I hope we'll be in 10 years, because in addition to homeless services, I was a sociologist, and I see lots of patterns, and they will not cheer us up today. But where I hope we will be in 10 years is that we will be making a 10-year plan that is focused on homelessness now being rare, brief, and non-recurring, as was said. And so for those people who continue to slip towards homelessness, how do we prevent that? So I hope our next 10-year plan is focused around prevention, diversion, and just deepening our coordination across systems so that we can achieve our goals.
Super. Suzanne?
Boy, this is a tough one, because being in this for 30 years, I thought we'd be in a different place, but I just really hope that some fundamental things change, that we take care of our elderly, that, it won't be so odd if kids live at home a little bit longer. And I really am struggling to find the best solutions, but I think it's going to start with humanity and us caring about each other and trying some daring new things. I'm hoping Yigby could be one of these things, but that's a good one for me to continue to ponder.
Okay. Commissioner?
Well, the county a while back had the opportunity to buy a hotel, and as you may have read in the papers, that fell through. Now, I don't think that that's a bad initiative for the county, but what I see is if we were able to do something like that, have all the wraparound services for those folks that we're putting in that community right there. So you're giving them the tools to then go on and get their permanent housing and keep their job and keep their kids in school. And I think that's something that we are actually missing, is really just having a village of all of the opportunities in one place. And it takes a village to do that. And I'm glad you're all here, and hopefully that's something that we will see in the future, because it can't be just government doing it. And the nonprofits help support government because there's a lot of times where a nonprofit will write for a grant, but they need the government to match that grant. So that's something that the government can do with the nonprofits. And also the nonprofits have an ability to fundraise where the government does not. So there is a need for nonprofits in our community. I would actually like to see less nonprofits. And if you all are working together, come together and become a larger unified voice, because then resources aren't depleted across many of you. We have 7,000 nonprofits here in the county and counting. So that's an issue too. But my crystal ball is that we actually just start to have communities with all the wraparound services together and the housing to train folks, give them the education that they need, give them the clothing that they need, give them the tools, the computers or whatnot, give them the measures so that they can go out and live on their own, and give them a roof over their head temporarily that it gives them their peace of mind and some pride, so that when they do go out and they find that job, they can keep that job, they can be proud of what they're doing, they can put some money aside, and they can have their own living space.
Super. Alex?
Well, my crystal ball's a little cloudy this morning, but I'll try to be aspirational. I hope that we're in a place where, our leaders have the courage to do the things that need to be done. And that means we've figured out how to have zoning laws that work for builders in a way that's profitable and fair to people that need to rent or own a home. I hope that my kids can afford to own a home in this community. I hope that people are getting paid livable wages. I hope that we have created a community and a village to be able to tackle these issues that are so prevalent in our community right now. I hope that we're talking about this less because it's less prevalent and less recurring. I hope that we're in a place where our country's temperature is brought down and we're able to have conversations with compassion and humanity. I hope a lot of things, right? And hope only happens when we work, and that's what we're here to do. And we keep getting up every day. All of us get up every day and think about the next best thing we can do to help this situation. So what gives me that hope to keep going is knowing that we're such a special community. Palm Beach County really is a special community. Yesterday I had the opportunity to spend time, and I don't know if they're in the room, I haven't seen them, with our PBSO HIT team. And hi, there you are. Good morning. And we had such an inspiring conversation that I left rejuvenated, right? And it's been, I know for some of you, maybe for all of us, a bit tough these days to just get up and keep going. But there is so much good here, and we have gotten so much right as a community because we've built on successes that we've worked to bring together. And that gives me, aspirationally, I hope that in 10 years we've come even further on that, and we've tried new things, and we've been able to figure out some solutions for our community. So that's the best I have today.
Terrific. Linda?
Yes. I hope for empathy across the board, and I hope for the housing plan that you all work so hard to get together with a housing plan for all that look across from no housing, homelessness, at risk of homelessness, to workforce housing, really get implemented throughout Palm Beach County and the different cities, come together to work collectively so we can have increased scale and production. And I hope private-public partnership really become the law of the land, that we can work together to get better housing and make sure that the people who are more disadvantaged actually find a house, and it's not a privilege to be in an affordable housing, it's actually a right. So I hope for all those things, and I hope we can pay people a little bit more so they don't have to need that $200,000 in subsidy, but maybe we can reduce that a little bit because they are actually qualified for a higher loan amount. So that's where I am.
Nick?
All right, well, that's a lot to follow up here. When talking about the future in Palm Beach County, I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. And I'm going to start by saying why I'm optimistic. And it's in part because of you all here today. The level of collaboration across entities, across municipalities and local governments is absolutely tremendous, because homelessness, affordability, it's a multifaceted problem. It requires a multi-tool approach to address those issues, right? The reason why I'm cautious about my optimism, though, is the numbers. You look at the Housing for All plan, 20,000 units needed in the next couple of years here. We're working towards that. We're making good progress, but there's still a lot that needs to be done. And I think there's a lot that needs to be done to get us there, right? We are in a built-out community. We have agricultural lands to the west. We have water to the east, in counties to the north and south. So if we're going to grow to meet the units that we need to kind of look within the density, and is a maximum density of 12 units per acre what's needed to address the housing shortages, to address the supply need, to keep prices affordable, because the cost of land, the cost of development is only increasing and increasing. So that pushes that pressure onto the end user, the buyer, the renter, without those subsidies that are in place. So if we can make it more affordable to build through scaling in certain areas, strategic areas, I think that would create a lot of downward pressure on some of the issues that we face. So again, cautiously optimistic, but I think all of you in this room today and all of the great minds here, we can put our minds together and really work through this, so we're not having the same conversation several years from now.
Super. Yes.
Mental health. How many of you are in the mental health space? Do you see that as a way to end homelessness? So I think we also need to come up with some better solutions for mental health.
Okay. So hopefully you have a better understanding of these collaborative non-direct service agencies and what they do, but we want to test that theory. So we asked the queen of the Mentimeter, Jennifer Sellers, to give you a little test to see what you've learned so far. Your queen.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, panelists, and thank you, Ezra. So we're going to dive into a lightning round using the Mentimeter. So those of you that are not familiar with Mentimeter, it's going to be super fun. For those of you that are familiar, go ahead and take out your phones, your smartphones, your laptops, your devices. We're gonna test that theory. So go ahead and pull out your smartphones. Scan the QR code that you see on any of the screens around the room. Yeah. Okay. We're going to give you a moment. And if you need the Wi-Fi is BBPD guest Wi-Fi. No password. No password. BBPD guest Wi-Fi. Are we in? We're still getting in. Raise your hand if you're still working on getting in. Sure. So the Wi-Fi is BB, like Boynton Beach, BB, PD, Police Department, guest. No password. You should be able to get right in. Denied access. Uh-oh. So if you scroll down to the bottom of that page, there should be a field that you can put in your email address. That will give you access.
Okay. So go in there, go to settings, forget network.
You're in. You're in. Yep, that's it. You're in. It's okay.
Network and do not use it as is and try it again. It should work this time, but it'll still stay denied, but it'll give you the lines for an email address.
Okay, we're going to give this just a moment more. I see a lot of smartphones capturing that QR code.
And while you're doing that, it's raining outside and there's a car outside with an open window. So if your car is FHYT33, please go out and close your window. FYIT33 is the license plate.
Okay, thank you, Ezra.
I don't know.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move forward. So I hope that you are all in the Menti, and I see the thumbs up happening on the bottom of the screen, which is so exciting. Thank you for the thumbs up. I love it. So now before today, before the forum, okay, and if you're still working to get in, you can go to menti.com, and the number code is at the top of the screen. But before today, how familiar were you with the roles of the collective non-direct service homeless and housing partners in Palm Beach County with our panelists? How familiar were you? Were you very familiar? Somewhat? You've heard of them, but you're not quite sure what their roles were, or completely new? So this is just a good way to get a temperature of who we have in the room. Somewhat. I don't know if I can see that, Constance. That's okay, we'll get you in. So play along. If you're not connected, that's okay. Play along anyway, it's super fun. Okay, so we have mostly somewhat familiar. Let's keep going. Yeah, this is my definition of fun. Okay, so here's the lightning round. Are you ready? This is so great. Okay, here we go. Which organization administers funding to homeless service providers and leads advocacy efforts at local and state levels? Who is it? Is it the Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County? Is it the Homeless and Housing Alliance, the Homeless Advisory Board, or Partners for Housing? Who do we have? Remember, lightning round, so super fast. And I see lots of thumbs up. I love that. That's great. Okay. And I think we've got a mostly clear winner as the numbers keep coming in. Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County. Ding, ding, ding. We're ready. Okay, number 2. Remember, lightning round, super fast. Okay, which group brings together providers to collaborate, to share best practice, and to advocate collectively? Which is it? Is it the Homeless Advisory Board, the Affordable Housing Commission, the Homeless and Housing Alliance, or Housing Leadership Council? Who is it? Oh my gosh, clear winner. Look at that, 53, 57. Oh my gosh. Okay, the Homeless and Housing Alliance. You are correct. Let's keep going. 71, holy moly. Okay, we're on to the next one. Which group advises county leadership, our county commissioners, on homelessness policies, priorities, and system performance? Do we have Partners for Housing, the Homeless Advisory Board, Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County? This is an easy one, if you're paying attention, if you have your coffee. Affordable Housing Commission, right? And for those of you that were quick on the uptake, that is the Homeless Advisory Board, so thank you for that. Next one, which group focuses on increasing the supply of affordable and workforce housing through policy, education, and public-private partnerships? Is it the Affordable Housing Commission, Housing Leadership Council, Partners for Housing, or the Homeless and Housing Alliance? Okay, so we have a lot happening here on this screen. We see 58 on Affordable Housing Commission, but this is the Housing Leadership Council. So, Suzanne, do you want to say like a quick clarifying, or should we? We do. There is a lot of synergy. Yes, there's a lot of overlap here, so I get it. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead. I love the thumbs up, though. Keep those coming. That's fantastic. Okay, now, which group advises on affordable housing policy, funding priorities, and development strategies at the county level. Housing Leadership Council, Affordable Housing Commission, the Homeless Advisory Board, or Partners for Housing. And we see a clear indicator here, Affordable Housing Commission. I did say this was a lightning round, right, guys? All right, okay. So we're lightning. We're staying on target. Okay, now, which group is a coalition of nonprofit housing developers dedicated to addressing affordable housing in Palm Beach County? We have Partners for Housing, Homeless Coalition of Palm Beach County, Homeless and Housing Alliance, or the Affordable Housing Commission. Look at all those thumbs up. This is great. And we have Partners for Housing at 58. Okay, now, after hearing from our partners, and we want to know, where do you see your role or your organization fitting in to the system? So on this one, you're just going to type in a word or two, right? And as the words pop up, the bigger the words are, the more collective, the more popular they are, right? More collective thought we have towards those things. So I see advocacy, collaboration, funder. I like funder. Education, really important. So where do you see yourself fitting in to our system? It is cool, right? I do love this. This is so great. Okay. I love it. And so we'll be able to share this with all of you after all the results coming out of this, and give those thumbs up down at the bottom. I love it. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for playing. And Ezra, I turn it back to you.
Great. You know, it's this thing is great to see, and it's great to see how enthusiastic Jennifer is about it. That makes it even better. So thank you to all our panelists and for joining us today and helping us get through some of the understanding of what various folks do. I think there are a couple of key takeaways from this. Homelessness and affordable housing is a complex issue, and it requires collaboration. That these organizations provide critical services and need community support. There are ways that you can get involved, both personally and organizationally, in the various organizations. So I'd like to invite you all to take a moment over the next few days and visit the websites of the Homeless Coalition, the Homeless and Housing Alliance, Partners for Housing, the Housing Leadership Council, the Housing Advisory Board, and the Homeless Advisory Board, to learn more about what they do and how you and your organization, if you're part of an organization, can get involved. So now we're going to take just a stretch break, and we're going to ask Wendy Tippett to come to the front, and we're going to talk about the present state of homelessness in our community. So take a stretch break. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, if we can get everybody to get back to their seats. I hope that okay, you know, you're on in an hour.
Yes. Do you know what agency?
He's from, it's called,
I can ask him to introduce himself.
I've got it. When I'm done this, I'll get it to you. If we can get everybody to take your seats. If not, we'll have lots more homework for you all to do. Ladies and gentlemen, find your seats, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please find your seats so we can continue with the program.
You know what? Do you want to just sit there? Or you'll do it from here?
It won't take very long. I purposely made it short.
You all right?
Hey guys, can we take our seats?
Folks, please take your seats. What we don't want to do is put you on 95 in rush hour.
Ladies and gentlemen. I was going to say, that was not me, y'all. But we would like for you guys to leave on time. The weather is bad, and we do not want you to get caught up in rush hour traffic, which here starts at 3 p.m.
Ready? Hi guys, thank you for coming today. And hopefully next time we meet, this is the last plan that I have to write. I'm going to retire before the next one. So I've been asked to do the history of homelessness. We could go on forever about the history of homelessness, but I'm going to focus really quickly on the history that I know. How many of you remember Brother Joe? Is that the first time you ever heard of homeless in Palm Beach County? About the guy sleeping in the dumpster to bring attention? That's a lot of years ago. We're aging ourselves, guys. When do you think the first HUD grants were released in Palm Beach County? 1992. We got our first demonstration grant. It was a 5-year grant with the YWCA, Palm Beach County, the Lord's Place, and Adopt a Family. Also during that time, the Obama White House, woo, go Obama, I'm sorry. The Obama White House released the American Recovery Act funding as well during this time. $1.5 billion was set aside on top of what they set aside for the continuum of care. What did that do for us in Palm Beach County? It introduced what Housing First was. It changed the way that we did business. It also introduced a new concept in housing, which was rapid rehousing, to which we struggled with in the beginning. I think anybody that was around during that time knows that we struggled with that in the beginning, but we've since embraced it, along with permanent supportive housing. I have prizes coming, so if anybody can answer this question, you're going to get a prize. Ezra, you don't count. Can anyone remember where the YWCA was located in 1992 when they got their first HUD grant? Yes, go ahead. They were on the campus of Palm Beach Atlantic University. Had a big pool. It was a beautiful, I couldn't believe they gave all that up, but they did. They sold it, and Palm Beach Atlantic has taken it over and really expanded their campus. Next slide. So the first 10-year plan identified the gaps that you see on screen. None of them should surprise you. They're the same gaps we have today. The only difference is the underserved populations have been combined a bit. Co-occurring disorders and undocumented are very difficult to serve. As a matter of fact, we can't serve undocumented, but really I don't see the population change much at all either. So that was the first 10-year plan. And Jeff Koons was the commissioner who was appointed to oversee, at that time, an advisory board. It had about 30 people on it, if I remember right. 35, Ezra says. All, no providers. It was all businesses, funders, et cetera, and they were supposed to fund the 10-year plan, but they got scared and left. Right, Jeff? So they did identify in the first 10-year plan, these are the goals that they identified based on the gaps. Again, not much different than we see today. So we added the housing first methodology. We were calling for folks that could influence policy and preserving our existing funding and public streams of funding and trying to figure out how to weave those together. So we've come a long way, but we still see the same goals that we saw 20 years ago now. Wow, you're old, both of you. So these are the results of the 10-year plan. They were lofty. They had 7 goals and 64 action steps. I think they met all but about 5 steps, all surrounding new build housing and new units. So we were in the 10 to end, which is what the plan was called. It created the Homeless Advisory Board, established rapid rehousing, created the hot teams, established Parks to Work. It's when the youth demonstration grants first came out, to which we were awarded nationally, one of 5 counties that was actually chosen, and we were awarded by the National Alliance to End Homelessness as being the kind of the best in being able to provide services to youth and reducing youth homelessness. And we also began to embrace collective impact. So in the second year plan, next please, is called Leading the Way Home. And again, we decided we were going to use the collective impact model. So if you're not familiar with the collective impact model, it's on screen. We have kept to that model, but not as stringently as we did in the beginning. But still have a common agenda. We still do all the measurements. We still do all of the, they call them reinforcing activities, but it's really support services. This was in 2017. We had hired, I want to say we hired C4 out of New York to help us write it. And the TA consultant that we had took another job about 10 days into writing this plan. So she threw something together and gave to us, which we then rewrote. So the plan that we have now, we actually wrote that plan. Next slide. And in Leading the Way Home, we had priorities, the progress, and the ongoing challenges. We continue to monitor those because they're the same thing, engaging in healthcare. You know, I've got to say, in all the years I've been doing this, this is the first year that we have actually had access to healthcare where people are seen right away. We have docs and we have nurses going out with outreach teams. So we're going down to the Homeless Trust, I think in the next month, to talk to them about their pilot program they're doing with nurses and docs from UM. And that's been a big help to be able to distribute meds on the street and be able to actually provide some health care to folks out there. Expanded support services. We've kind of done that through the addition of respite beds, which I never thought we'd have in our community. Ezra's been fighting for respite beds for a very long time, and finally added them at the Salvation Army, and then we were very fortunate to get some congressional funding to allow us to convert what used to be the Homeless Coalition's donation space into more beds to allow more services under respite. So that makes Ezra very happy. Right? Yeah, yeah. That program always stays full. So we need to take a deeper dive into why does that program always stay full? Are there enough respite beds? Do we need to hit the south end? It just brought a lot of questions with it after the pilot. We wanted to increase access to permanent supportive housing. You know, we've done a really good job with permanent supportive housing. Between rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing, we have about 550 beds that are funded by the continuum of care. Unfortunately, we got a glance at what looks like HUD's new application moving forward, which should be released somewhere between March and June, with a turnaround before the election in November. No more permanent supportive housing allowed. They're not going to fund it, period. They're not going to fund rapid rehousing either. The only thing they're going to fund is intensive street outreach with social workers and law enforcement, and transitional housing. Transitional housing is an old model, 24 months maximum, and then they've got to go. So all of the folks that are sitting in permanent supportive housing are not eligible for any more HUD services. So all of those folks are going to be out on the street. So that's coming our way in the fall. That decision will be made. Right now it says you can keep 30% of your permanent supportive housing. We're leaning toward elderly because if you had to choose, who would you choose? Congress came back and said 60%, but it's not been passed yet on the Senate side. The House passed it, but the Senate has not. So we'll see where that goes. But that is going to be a huge, this afternoon, when you begin to look at what the priorities are and what priorities you'd like to see for our community, please remember that HUD will no longer fund those projects. Only transitional housing. I know, we've been in a funk about this for months, trying to figure out how to fund these folks that some of them have been in permanent supportive housing for 20 plus years. And there's just no other place for them. Calvin, are you ready? Calvin works for the Lord's Place and runs all their housing programs. So, are you ready? Next slide. Okay, got it. We wanted to align funding. We wanted to expand engagement. We wanted to enhance the homeless system of care. We have done a fairly decent job doing that. We're meeting every month with the healthcare district and all the other partners that participate in coordinated entry. You're welcome to come. If you're interested, just give me an email and we can get you into that, that conversation. Is Taruna here? Taruna. There's Taruna. Stand up, Taruna. Taruna, it was the creator of that initiative, and it's lasted, and it's been really successful. People love going to it. It's old-fashioned case management. I think we forgot how to do old-fashioned case management. So it's going back to how do you get the client in the same room with all the agencies that that person's working with and create a plan that's viable. Because when you leave your client out, I could write 100 plans if I didn't have a client. But they need to sit together and become partners. We're going to do a deeper dive with the Homeless and Housing Alliance on how much funding we're going to potentially lose in regards to like the permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing programs. And then try to realign some of the FAA funding, if possible, when they go out again for their homeless RFP, be able to kind of link those together like a puzzle. And then the system complexity and data coordination challenges through enhanced system of care. We're working on that. Again, Taruna is the computer program guru, and being able to link all the systems together so they all talk to each other. So if they hit the mental health side, it'll talk to the homeless side, and we get a clearer picture of where all those folks have been. So hopefully that will get done at least before I retire. And guys, that leads us to today. And today we're going to do the same thing. We're going to figure out what are our priorities based on what the environment is. We know our senior population is growing and continues to grow. We know our youth population is down, but hiding. ICE and House Bill 1365 have certainly created some challenges in the homeless world, for sure. House Bill 1365, we lasted a year without doing tickets or arrests. Well, that's over. Tickets and arrests are happening in municipalities around us. So how do we flip that on its head a little bit? So those are all things for you to think about as we take a look at creating the next set of goals and the next action items for the next 10-year plan, which will go through 2028. No, 10 years, Wendy. I'm not good with math. I told you I'd keep it short. That's all I got for you. Can I answer any questions? No questions, Ezra. We can go to lunch.
All right. Well, no, we can't go to lunch. We've got things happening right now.
Okay.
Before we go to our next section, Dr. Green had a quick comment that he wanted to make.
All right, good morning. So there are a couple of things that I want to comment on. The first is, I'm going to ask Jennifer to come up. And where's Suzanne? And Carlos from DHED. Where's Suzanne Cabrera? Oh, there she is. Okay. So we are so very excited to have launched our very first Housing Leadership Academy this year. Yeah. When I tell you, being in a room with 50 individuals from the private sector, from nonprofits, from faith-based, from foundations, from municipalities, and them hearing everything the curriculum is very, very detailed, it's very well structured, very well organized, and they have been there just soaking all of that information up with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of excitement. We have been able to leverage their ideas. All of them have service learning projects that they're implementing, and they're extremely excited about it. We're probably 4 months in right now. They will come out, they will get a certification from Florida Atlantic University, who is a partner in this, and CEUs, and they will come out. I mean, it's like going through a real course. I think 6 to 9 months, and it is phenomenal. They're hearing from subject matter experts in all of the areas around homelessness and housing, panelists, and getting to meet people, and it is just phenomenal. And so I just wanted to take a moment. First, are there any representatives from the Housing Leadership Academy? Please stand if you're here. And let's give them a big round of applause. We are so excited to have you to be a part of this learning experience, because we need all ideas on the table, and we need to make sure that we're leveraging the talent that we have here in Palm Beach County. And so I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that and our partners who are involved with this effort. So Jennifer, okay. And then the last thing that I'll mention is, can you grab the CEO from the Salvation Army? He's out there. Steve, can you grab him? I don't know. He'll have on a uniform in case you don't know who he is. So for those of you who don't know as of yet, we will be, hey, can you come up front? This is our very new CEO from the Salvation Army. And most of us know that it's going to be pretty cold this weekend. And so we are looking to open cold weather shelters from 7 p.m. right now, unless I think Tammy is probably going to be having a conversation pretty soon with you, to 9 a.m. to get our unsheltered neighbors out of the cold. And so we're so grateful for the partnership with the Salvation Army and for Goodwill. So Yvette, stand up. And all of our Goodwill team. So there'll be the shelter for the East Coast will be hosted at the Salvation Army facility off of Military Trail. And for the Glaze community, it'll be at our Belglade Intake Center. And we have a couple of overflow areas if needed. But I just wanted to acknowledge our partnership and say thank you very much for this partnership. Okay? It's our pleasure to help. Okay?
Okay, we're deviating from the program a little bit. You all enjoyed the Mentimeter so much that we asked the Queen of the Mentimeter to come back and do another quiz with you all now. So can you give a round of applause to Jennifer Sellers?
Okay, we're back. All right. Let's see. Thank you, Ezra. Okay, so we're back with the Menti. Actually, I'm going to ask for a little bit of help. For those of you that are not able to get onto the Wi-Fi or participate in the Menti, this one is a little bit more robust than the last one. The last one was super fun, right, where we were just kind of playing a lightning round. This one, we want to elicit more information from you. So we do have a handout. Let's see, Ezra, can I enlist you for a little help? Thank you. Right here on the folder, we have a couple of handouts. So if you're not able to participate, right there, thank you. If you're not able to participate electronically, you'll be able to participate on paper, which is awesome, right? So, so we heard from Wendy, and she outlined where we've been and where we are now in our plan to end homelessness. So what I'd like to do is to briefly connect the focus areas of our current plan, which are these. These are our focus areas that Wendy touched on, to what comes next, right? And so we are going to turn the conversation over to you. So you saw these in Wendy's presentation, so we're not going to spend too much time here. For those of you that are interested in looking at our current plan, Leading the Way Home, there is a QR code on the bottom of the screen that will take you directly to the current 10-year plan, so you can have a look at that at your leisure. And we're going to get ready for Menti. Are you ready? This is the best. Okay, new QR code, and you guys are all primed because we started early. I like it. So grab your smartphones or your laptops. If you have a laptop or on your phone would rather put in menti.com, you can, and just add the 8-digit code that you see on the screen. Or of course you can use the QR code. And I see the hearts and the thumbs up coming. So those of you that know me, thank you so much. That's so great. That's so much fun. Please raise your hand if you are not yet connected. Oh, look at you guys. You're almost connected. Okay, this is so great. And if you need a hard copy, Ezra is walking around. We've got lots of extra hard copies. Joe, I see you too with hard copies. If anybody needs them, please raise your hand, and we'll collect those after. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. All right, we're going to warm up here. Okay, so in one word, what should the top focus of our next 10-year plan to end homelessness be? What do you think we should focus on? In one word. We're gonna get warmed up here. And again, as you submit your responses, you're going to see the words grow on the screen, and this helps us to visualize where there's common ground across the room, right? I see in very big letters, funding, housing, prevention. So common ground there. I love it. I think they're still coming in. And again, if you have that hard copy, just feel free to write down on the paper, and we'll get your thoughts. This is great. For those of you that are new to the Menti, this is a way to engage everybody. This is a way that we can have the thoughts and opinions of all 200 of you in the room. It's amazing. Love it. Okay, keep them coming. Affordability, prevention, housing, funding, mental health is a strong contender there. Affordability, I see popping up. This is great. And the thumbs up, thank you. All right, we're going to go on to the next one now. I almost don't want to leave this page. It's too much fun seeing it all bounce around, right? Okay. All right, so now I know that this might be a little bit hard to read. There are a lot of screens around the room. If you need the paper copy, again, just raise your hand. We'll get that to you. But on this screen, you are going to see a list of focus areas. So what we're asking you to do here is to rank those focus areas in order of importance based on where you believe our collective efforts should be prioritized moving forward. Okay, so in number 1 right now, strengthen homeless prevention and diversion. And number 2, very close behavioral health and crisis response partnerships. I'm going to give you a few moments to take your time and rank them. Oh, I love it. Strengthen advocacy and public awareness. Community engagement just popped up to the third spot. Increasing services for youth, seniors, other vulnerable populations. And we still have strengthening prevention and diversion, strong number 1. Now, for those of you that are again, new to the Menti, you're seeing all of this in real time, which makes it so exciting. Still have a few coming in. Okay, before we move on, and as we continue, not to worry if you're still putting in your ranking and we move ahead, we are still going to capture those responses, so not to worry, okay? So before we leave this slide, we have prevention and diversion in at number 1. Number 2 is access to stable, supportive housing options. 3, expanding behavioral health and crisis response partnerships. And a good solid number 4 is strengthening advocacy, public awareness, and community engagement. Love it. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. Now, on this slide, we are going to choose up to 3 areas on this slide, okay? The question asks you to think practically about resources. If additional investments were available over the next 3 years, where do you believe it would have the greatest impact? You can select up to 3 choices. So we're going to take a moment here. Where do you want additional investments focused in the next 3 years? And as you do this, I want to remind you that this afternoon we are going to break out into different sessions and we're going to dive into all these different focus areas. And these are the conversations that are going to happen amongst yourselves and then with us later. But this is a good way to kind of start thinking about priorities and areas of investment. So we have here rental and move-in assistance, housing development, I think 38, employment, workforce training, behavioral health services, and coming up, case management support. So interesting, good things to think about as we move into those breakout sessions later. And I love the hearts and the thumbs up. Thank you for sending thumbs up. So great. Okay, now, what should be included in our next 10-year plan? Finally, we'd love to hear directly from you all. Then this is the most amazing thing about the Mentimeter. We can have all 200 of us offer our voice and opinion here. What is the one thing that you would like to see included in the next 10-year plan to end homelessness in Palm Beach County? Okay, so this is a little bit of a longer answer. Take your time. What is one thing that you want to see in that plan? Think about it. And all this information will neatly go right into a spreadsheet, so we'll be able to elicit all this data, all this information, and your voice is heard. Now, just a thought, this could be a program idea. It could be a system improvement. It could be a population focus. Or it could be something that we haven't even talked about yet. These are your thoughts. And just a quick look up here. I see mental health advocacy a few times. Emergency housing. Quick shelter access. More funding. Affordable housing. Right? So the usual. Good. And I love the hearts. Thank you. That's so fun. And the thumbs up. If you haven't clicked on that yet, do that. It's really fun. See, there it goes. Amazing. And remember, this will still capture your thoughts after we move the screen along. So not to worry. And if you cannot access this information electronically, there are paper copies going around. So at any time, if you need that paper copy, if you have a thought later, let us know. Okay. So the Menti is a lot of fun, right, as we all know, but I really do, with full sincerity, want to thank you for sharing your perspectives with us. It's really very important, and I want to let you know that what you are contributing here today through the Menti, through our breakout sessions in just a moment, helps us to ensure that our next steps are grounded not only in the data, but also in our lived experience, our professional expertise, and our community priorities. So I thank you for participating, and I'm going to turn it back over again to Ezra. Thank you.
Thank you, your queendom. Okay, so we've spent some time talking about what are some of the organizations that are involved, We've then spent some time talking about the current state of homelessness in our community. How did we get to where we are today? Our next session is about finding out a little bit more about what our neighbors are doing, what are innovation and things that are happening out in the community that maybe we're not aware of, or that things that we might want to, as a community, look at more closely as avenues that we can go. So I will ask Karen Abbott to join me, and Karen will introduce our panelists for this section.
Good morning. Thank you. Tell them where you're from. Oh, okay. I am from the West Palm Beach VA healthcare system, and I'm the section chief for our homeless services program there. And it's a real honor to be here this morning and to introduce some of our panelists from our neighboring counties. Can you hear me? Hold the mic. Is that better? Sorry. Again, I'm Karen Abbott. I'm from the West Palm VA, and I work in homeless services. And I'm very honored to be introducing our next panelists from our neighboring counties. I'm going to ask for Jade Alexander to come up. Good morning. And Jonathan Orozco. Hi, Jonathan. And Joseph Tomer. Is Joseph here? Okay. We'll give him 1 minute. Hi, good morning. Okay. So can I ask you to introduce yourselves?
Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan Orozco. I'm the development director at The Source in Vero Beach. We're a ministry that has been around for the last 30 years. And for the first 20 of those years, we were much like any other food pantry that you can imagine. But for the last 10, we've created some really innovative stuff that I'm excited to talk to you about.
Hi, I'm Jade. I get to work with Johnny every day at The Source in Vero. He's not the one I have to worry about. It's our boss. But we really consider ourselves to be disruptive innovators of how we approach homelessness in our community, and hoping to share some of those ideas with you guys that you can implement here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Jacob Torner. I serve as the Vice President of Programs at the Task Force for Ending Homelessness. We're a leading organization providing services that address unsheltered and sheltered homelessness throughout 8 Florida counties, including here in Broward.
Thank you. Okay. The mic to ask some questions. I would like to say that at our VA we have a large catchment area that includes the Treasure Coast, and we've worked with The Source. Our outreach team has very much so, and we're very appreciative of everything you do. I can vouch for The Source. Okay, so Allie has come up with some really great questions, and I'm going to start with a two-parter. Where do you see the biggest increase in homelessness in your area coming from, and how has your community adjusted your resource allocation and response? Okay. Okay.
Well, I would say first and foremost, we all know that we're in an aging crisis of homelessness. So we continue to see a large volume of folks who are what I consider to be over the age of 51 is who I define as seniors. And That's very troubling. I also know that when you look at our population, specifically in Broward County, we continue to have a high volume of families with minor children. And a lot of that stems from a lack of workforce resources and safety net resources for those single mothers who fall on hard times, are unable to get themselves out of that situation, and typically end up walking away from a home or being evicted forcefully.
Absolutely. So where you see the biggest increase in homelessness in your area, and as well how you've adjusted your response to that.
So we recently brought on a member of our team, Dale, who's our data guy. And so he's been able to really hone in on retrieving data from all our services and kind of pinpoint the areas where we need to improve our services. And one of the things that we've recently done, I'm not sure if I would say if it's the biggest thing, but the most recent thing is that we have started to just focus on our county a little bit more with services that we're providing so that we can get to a functional zero within our community. Once we get to that point, which we believe is very doable, we may open it back up to other service areas, but right now we're just honing in on serving the people in our community.
So just to add to that, one thing that I think differentiates us as an agency versus probably everyone in this room is that we don't participate in our continuum of care. We are standalone from that. And a big reason why is we don't take any HUD, we don't take any government funding at all of any kind. Every single thing that we do is all community-led or through the businesses that we have and the money that we're able to generate. So that being said, we still look at all of the reporting. We still do our own data. We still use an HMIS type system. But one of the things that I like to point at all of the time is the AHAR report. Does everyone know what that is? So you guys can go on your phones and search the AHAR report. The AHAR report, and I don't know the actual. AHAR. Yeah. But if you search that report and it's very long, but I believe on page like 81, you'll be able to find a section where they compare communities across the country, and for unsheltered, chronic homeless individuals, and that community's response to that problem. And for our community, we were the worst in the nation. Worse than California, worse than New York. Everywhere that people said, we don't want to be like them, we're worse. So for us, we decided that's the population we're going to target. We're going to target chronic, unsheltered individuals because every single other program that we have has a barrier. You have to be a certain demographic to be able to participate in that, where we have no barriers. And we have created so many different programs that address every single need for a chronic homeless individual in a one-stop shop.
Awesome. Okay, so tell us a success story that required breaking a rule or bending a system or building an unusual partnership.
Sure. My favorite thing to talk about is our Elder Haven and Hope program. This is a program, I started off by talking about that aging crisis of homelessness. And the Elder Haven and Hope program is a program we started in Broward County now 12 years ago. And it started with just 3 beds in the back of a church facility who had some structure that was able to be used as a temporary shelter. And what we learned is that we needed more space for people who were not very appropriate to be placed in congregate environments due to health conditions and the number of other hazards that go along with it. And so we worked with a local municipality whose zoning restrictions would absolutely not allow us to do what we did. Maybe we did it a little bit before we got permission, maybe during the process. I'm not going to tell you all that. But most importantly is working to update really what are outdated policies or a policy in this particular municipality to allow people to share housing. And when we think about seniors, one of the things that often go along with senior citizens, not just in homelessness but in general, is loneliness. And so the ability to bring people together in a community environment that's not a congregate shelter but more of a home environment really enables them to thrive and recover and work on regaining stability. And the major success for us is we've had over 300 people come through that program. More than 85% of them left into permanent housing on their own, and 98% of them are still there today.
So we don't play by the rules at all. We're considered kind of like a black sheep of our community as far as non-profit organizations go, because we just do things very different than most. So probably all of our stories are unconventional of how we get people into housing and create success stories. I'll highlight the biggest one that I think, in my opinion, and Johnny could give his feedback. But we were running into zoning issues like many of you may struggle with. And so creating a brick and mortar shelter, transitional housing, that takes money, that takes time, that, a lot of red tape to go through. So we came up with the country's first ever mobile shelter. So we're able to house people, or shelter people immediately when they come into our building. There's an intake process that they go through, and they can get shelter that night. We're not saying, oh, only men can come here, or only women and children can come here. It's everybody. So we try to remove a lot of the barriers. One of the stories that I can think of was a guy needed $20 to pay for his storage unit so that he can use that $20 to stay in housing. And he couldn't get $20 from anywhere. There was a lot of applications he had to go through, long waiting periods that you have to do before you can get approved to give somebody $20. So, if he had walked in through our doors, we would have just given him the $20, and that's the privileges we have because we don't have to go through any type of pre-approvals because we don't take funding, state, local funding. All of our funding comes from private donations, grants, and Johnny's the mastermind behind getting that for us. But that, another story I can think of is our Dignity Hospitality program that we have, where we actually trained someone how to work in the hospitality field, and then we hired them. And so we gave them a job, and then we gave them housing. And that took, in a matter of maybe 2 months, that he started making income and was housed. So just most of our stories sound like that. It's not a long waiting period. We're not trying to put people through create more trauma. All right, we're trying to get them housed as fast as possible. But when we do get them housed, we're not leaving them alone, and that's kind of where my job comes in, Neighbor Services Director. So help them get into housing, but we stay with them and we walk through this journey with them. So I visit them often. We have personal relationships. They text me, and you do have to have boundaries, but I make myself available because we're building community. We consider these people family, and we're not just saying, here, come get this service, and out the door you go, and we never see you again. And we can't measure success rates that way, especially if you're dealing with people with mental health illness. There's a lot of trust that needs to be built before they will even trust you to open themselves up to your advice, your mentorship, your help that they're offering. So the only way we really believe that we can do that is through community. We believe that the greatest cause of homelessness is a catastrophic loss of family. So we try to create that family.
Yeah, so, she touched on a lot of different things, but just to make one note on what she was talking about with the Dignity buses, we created this about 6 years ago now and have been operating 365 days every single night and helping people with now 3 buses in our community that we're operating. We also have built them. Every single one of them that was built by people coming out of homelessness that have construction experience, that have gifts and abilities that would allow us to be able to do this. And then on top of that, we've started to build these for communities across the country. So we have one in Rhode Island, one in Chicago. Orlando just purchased 2. And we are actually delivering, right now it's on a barge to go to St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands. And just yesterday we got confirmation that they're buying one in St. Thomas. So, that's my little sales pitch of if your community needs beds extremely quickly for an affordable rate, this is an amazing program. But what I think everyone can agree with is that sometimes zoning and the red tape can be really, really difficult when you're trying to help people. So for us, when we approached this emergency shelter, we realized that wasn't going to be the end-all, be-all for people. We needed to figure out housing. And affordable housing, I can't even afford the affordable housing in our community. It's just insane. So we had to create that. So we started with a motel that we purchased and renovated, and we still operate as a motel. And it was a deplorable condition facility, but the value was in the license, because we were able to operate and bring anybody that we wanted in there from daily, weekly, monthly rates and be able to set those as a business would, because it's been in operation. On top of that, we just got a 30-acre campus this last April with 9 buildings, and we're going to be able to house 99 people out there. Wow. So with that and a couple triplexes and a couple other different facilities, we're going to, we believe in the next 3 years, be able to eradicate homelessness, chronic unsheltered homelessness in our community.
That's amazing. Okay, well, a little bit more about collaboration. Can you tell us, give us some examples of collaborations that are working and some that maybe break down, and what you do with that, how you deal with that?
Yeah, I think more and more, we have to focus on treating those people who are experiencing homelessness with the resources that actually meet their needs. And one of those is resources for support and recovery. And in the homeless continuum of care, traditionally, those resources are not often funded very well, if at all. So partnering on the continuum of care side, or as a continuum of care provider, if you're not the lead agency, with your managing entity is critical. And we've had tremendous success doing that, not just in Broward County, but as well in North Florida, in ensuring that our managing entity, which has millions of dollars for people to access support and recovery resources, oftentimes residential programs, which is most of the times what street outreach programs and those crisis services and continuum of cares need, is a place to put people. And so I just encourage groups to not shy away from partnering with the recovery system of care and really look at it as an extra tool in the housing toolbox within your housing resources. And one of the things also to consider is that, like I mentioned, there are a number of residential programs for people to go into. And if you can leverage those residential beds while working to address whatever those, housing barriers are, so that that person can discharge into a safe, stable place, then, it's a win-win for everyone. The person gets off the street, and the person also is able to go through a process that has a positive outcome.
So at our service center, we try to be a one-stop shop, everything in-house, so that we're not referring people outside a whole bunch. So we do have mental health counseling on site. So whereas the wait time to see a mental health counselor would be weeks to months, we could see them the same day they do the intake. We have the local clinic that comes and brings their truck on site, so they don't have to wait for appointments. They can get screened on site same day. And our local police department, sheriff department, and judges, they also are a big support of us. So once a month we have re-entry meetings. So if someone came to our facility and they just weren't following the rules, then we say, hey, you can't come back until you have a re-entry meeting, and that will consist of our staff. It will consist of the other homeless individuals who are on a member advisory board, that they are made up of the homeless individuals that receive services from us, and a representative from the police department, sheriff's department, the re-entry coordinator from the local jail, and the judge on the 19th Court District. So we all come to the table and try to get to the bottom of why is this individual keep getting into issues in our community? Because if when you go to jail, that costs money. That's taxpayers' money. So we want to prevent that. All right, and so if you want to be here and use our services, everybody that we partner with comes and wraps their arms around this individual. And Johnny can talk a little bit more about the ones that aren't working so well.
Well, before I go into some of the ones that don't work too well, there was one thing that I think is really valuable in our community. We have a program called Dignity Smiles, where we actually do complete dental restoration for people. So before that, we would just have, teeth cleanings and extractions. And eventually you have no more teeth to extract, and you have a completely broken smile, and it's really hard to get a job, and everything just continues. So now we've partnered with 9 dentists who are doing complete restorations. And, we looked at just the cost of one of those. We had a guy named Kyle who hasn't had a full set of teeth since he was 14 years old. He's now, I think, 100. He's in his 50s or 60s, 63. And, he has a brand new smile, but when you look at the value of that, it was about $40,000 of implants that went into his mouth. And that is we have 26 cases like that now. So that's an amazing, amazing program. So one of the things I think that isn't working too well, and I did hear the commissioner talk a little bit about this problem, which is we have a problem with the hospitals, where the hospitals like to take people that are coming out that are homeless, treat them with the bare minimum, and then send them to our door. And we have people who are missing limbs. We have people who have active conditions that we don't have staff to deal with that. And they, have funding, funded partners to do that, but it's too difficult to cross those barriers, so they just send them to us. And so we went to them and we said, we're not going to be accepting people from you anymore. And so the response to that was they were going to Uber people to the Publix down the road and tell them to walk. So, we deal with a lot of that kind of stuff. But like Jade said earlier, we're really kind of closing down who it is that we work with, how we do that, so that we can get to the end of solving this homelessness issue.
That was great. Okay. If we are going to gather my thoughts. Okay. So, you heard from our wonderful Wendy Tippett. If you were writing a 10-year plan today, what would you fund first, and what would you stop funding?
Well, I want to just go back to what he was talking about with the inappropriate discharges from hospitals, because I think it's important people know there's a bill right now in the legislature on the House side and the Senate side, and of course the number's not coming to me now that I'm talking about it. But everyone should go online and research this bill, reach out to your local state senator and your state representatives if it's something that you feel is important or beneficial. But essentially, the bill seeks to ensure that there's a bridge from hospitals and crisis and inpatient facilities into housing, support, and services, and does so with very clear oversight from state authorities. So we're looking forward to seeing that come through. So what do we fund? That's the magic question, right? And my answer to that is always going to be, what does your data say that the need is? We know that families with young children traditionally have great needs, but can usually get off of their, out of homelessness and back on their feet with very minimal assistance, whereas someone who's been in homelessness for a very long time fits that chronic definition and may require a little bit more support services, needs more intensive wraparound supportive type of housing. When we think about what to fund, we know that we have to prioritize access. If people can't access our system, which includes our outreach workers, including clinical professionals that perform outreach, because gone are the days where you can expect that you're going to solve homelessness by asking people to come in and get support at a clinic or at a location. So funding support services for the streets in a way that's very significant, that recognizes that you need licensed professionals sometimes to empower folks to move on to that next step in their journey, is critical. But then once you have access covered, you also have to think about how are you getting people off of the streets and out of the unsheltered environment. And so I encourage communities to look at it as a state of emergency. The same way that if we were to have a storm tomorrow come to our community, our local elected officials, along with their charter officers that run these municipalities and jurisdictions, would have shelters and transitional environments set up in 12 to 24 hours. And that's an approach where we've seen success, such as in Denver, with major reductions in the unsheltered population in other communities. So really looking at it from an emergency standpoint and funding the resources that way, I think is a critical lens to go through.
My answer might be a little bit biased because of my role. So Johnny might say something differently than me, but I think just creating more affordable housing is where I'd put the focus on funding, because what we're trying to accomplish with the 30-acre property is building tiny homes on there so that we can house 99 people. Our point-in-time count, I forget the number, but how much was the point-in-time count for our under 200? And you know, if we're going to be able to house 99 people, you know, in the next 2 to 3 years, that's like half. And if they're a lot of them are couples, you know, the couples, you're addressing the issue is twice as fast. So. Not really, no. So I would focus more on creating affordable housing, because we do have the things in place where we'll help you with the first, last, and security. But when you get that, where do you go? We have wait lists for like years. That's unrealistic that those people will ever move out of those situations unless they pass away. And you know, it's just backing it up. So you have all the funding to help prevent homelessness. This is great. You have the funding to help people move in quicker. This is great. But where do they go? And so in my opinion, it would be focused on just creating more affordable housing, things that people can actually afford.
So I think, you know, being in the development role, I'm going to have a slightly different answer. And for me, I think we need to all look at funding and fundraising a little bit differently than we probably have been. You know, one of the things that I heard was, you know, it's not a handout but a hand up, and a lot of people say that. And even at the source, we don't believe in that. We believe in a hand in, right? So if everyone in this room has their hand in, if government has their hand in, if volunteers have their hand in, and the people that we serve have their hand in, then it makes light work. We can have this happen. So when you look at fundraising from the same perspective, government shouldn't be the one solution to this, right? There should be a ton of different solutions, and government should be the gasoline on the fire, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, I think that, you know, I can't come in and tell you what this community needs. You know, you guys know much more than I do. But I think that when we just need to look at fundraising a little bit differently. When my executive director took over our agency 10 years ago, he inherited $30,000 in the bank, and we were 1 month away from closing. When we changed how we approach everything that we do, now we have an annual budget of about $2.2 million, and we raised $7.4 this year. So it's just about putting the people first and then fundraising after that.
I have one more question, but then I think maybe the community has questions as well. Okay, but we have time. Okay, we have time constraints. What would make your job easier tomorrow if we could act on it?
I think that, you know, one of the things that I see a lot is we all have these meetings and then nothing ever happens. You know, if we can all just come away from this and say we're going to take one piece that we learned today and start doing that tomorrow, I think that in 10 years we're going to see a much different community.
Ditto.
I would say the same thing, but on top of that, I would just add every person in here has to walk out of here today with the charge and motivation to not accept the current environment, to not consider it to be something that when you wake up tomorrow is just something that you're going to work on again. No, it's something you're going to solve tomorrow. And every day focusing on the problem with that level of motivation and focus, you know, we've seen over 84 communities in this country eliminate veteran homelessness. We've seen more than a dozen communities eliminate chronic homelessness. The way they do it is very clear. There's a scientific process to increasing the number of people who leave our homeless response system than the number who enter it every day, and we all have to, take accountability to achieve that.
Ezra?
We will have time for maybe one or two questions. Lunch is coming, so that's a priority for me. But Jacob, can you just take 2 seconds and talk about? I was introduced to Jacob at a Florida conference on homelessness, a session where he talked about an initiative that we've been talking about here in Palm Beach County for a while, and they're doing it in Broward. So if you could talk about community court, that would be terrific.
Yeah, sure. So community court is essentially a problem-solving court. It doesn't work much differently than your mental health or drug courts, if you're familiar with those. And Fort Lauderdale was the first one in Broward County. And when I walked into the room, I just have to say, I saw Fort Lauderdale's community court coordinator here. So if she wants to come up and say anything, feel free. She's telling me be quiet. Don't do that. But community court essentially looks to resolve misdemeanor repeat offenders through support services and housing stability. And so officers throughout the 3 municipalities that currently have community court in Broward, which is City of Fort Lauderdale, City of Pompano Beach, and the City of Hollywood. Fort Lauderdale started first, Hollywood came shortly after, and then Pompano, and they've all been tremendously successful. People attend community court after they've engaged with a law enforcement officer and have been identified to have committed a misdemeanor offense. They're then offered a notice to appear in lieu of being arrested, and they bring that notice to appear to our community court, which is set up in a room just like this, not a very judicial room, but rather one where all these tables that you all are sitting at is actually filled with every support and resource provider in Broward County. Comes together on one day each week, on different days of the week for the respective courts. Individuals come in starting at 9 a.m. It's open to the public. So while community court is intended and was initially intended to be that resource for those who are repeat offenders, it actually turned into something much more beautiful because over 100 people typically walk into community court on any given court day. They walk through all the resource providers, they get connected to treatment beds, housing plans, coordinated entry. All of our outreach and clinical professionals attend court as well. And then the officers who issued them the notices to appear are also there, but they're not there for a punitive type of interaction. Instead, oftentimes, they're the ones who will offer to pick them up and bring them to court to make sure that they get there on time. Then after the resources are all done in the morning, court starts, the judge begins presiding around 10:30. She sees cases that are on the docket, and usually there are a couple successful graduations, a couple new individuals. Anything I missed, Marie, that you want to add?
So the individuals who received the notice to appear, not only we addressing the misdemeanor citation, we also addressing the needs that they need. It could be mental health, substance use treatment, case management. So this is the whole thing. It's a holistic court. Instead of them going to the court, it's the court coming to them to make them feel comfortable and to address the needs that they need.
Is funded a little bit differently in each municipality. Some municipalities are using general funds. City of Hollywood, for example, received a federal grant.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that we did mention that because it's an initiative we've talked about, but we haven't taken the next step. We probably have time for 2 questions, and then we're going to eat. So does anybody have a question in the room? Of course, Patrice. Wait, Patrice, use the mic.
Excuse me, sorry.
Now, I know with the Dignity buses, was that an original project to help seniors get into a bus, to stay safe overnight? And does it go to locations to pick people up? I don't know how you're using your Dignity bus. I think you're...
So we have a program called Dining with Dignity, where we train individuals and give them culinary skills. It's a 6-week program, and when they are done, we help them get employment at one of our local restaurants in the community. So we started that program. We were training people, and then our doors would close, and then they would go sleep on the street, and then they would have no place to sleep, and we would expect them to show back up the next morning for training. So the Dignity Bus was birthed so that our students in our program had a safe place to be at night, so they had proper rest to be able to attack the next day, learn, and be able to graduate the program. So when we first implemented it, it was just for the students. We then opened it up to the community, so anybody who was coming to our service center for services could get on the Dignity Bus. We did start off by going to different points in our community where we know that our unhoused would populate and do pickups, and then eventually end out at the local truck stop, and we would stay there all night. As costs started rising, we found different solutions. So now they register and they meet up at our service center. So that's where our bus stays at night. And we no longer use the generator. We have the electricity cord that we use now. So the gas and the generator gas, or I think it's diesel, whichever one, those costs have been diminished by staying at our service center. But the buses are created to be mobile, to move. So if that's what your community needed, that's what you would have to do, and that's how we started.
All right. We have time for one more. Jen, did you say there was another one? There it is.
Hi, I have a question. So can people from different counties access like the dental services that you provide?
So initially, yes, we were servicing anybody from anywhere. That's just part of our belief to remove barriers. Very recently, this year, 2026, we decided to just focus on the people in our county to get to a functional zero. Once we are able to accomplish that, things may change where we may open it back up. But what we really hope is that we inspire other communities to create organizations like us in their community, because we cannot do it alone. And so if we open it back up to other communities, everybody's just going to come here to our county. So we really want to inspire people. You don't have to be exactly like us, but you can pick one thing that you think you can do. Like Jake said, go out tomorrow with a solution in mind, not just the motivation, but also like, okay, that's one thing I think my organization can do, and this is how we're going to implement it. So yes, we did start off that way, but currently not anymore.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you, Karen, and thank you, panelists, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for all the work that you do. Couple of housekeeping notes. Channel 20, our county's television station, is in the corner, and they're conducting interviews with individuals about your concerns about homelessness and so on. We would love to have you participate. So during this break time that we're going to have, if you could step out and be part of that process, that would be terrific. Secondly, if you filled out a paper response to the Mentimeter, we'd like to get them back because that's going to help provide the data. So if you have them, Jennifer will collect them from you. Alex mentioned earlier that the Homeless Coalition has underwritten both your breakfast this morning, which I hear was really good, and lunch now. So thank you, Alex, and the Homeless Coalition. And we're gonna take a brunch, take some time to eat, hopefully have some opportunity to network. And then this afternoon, we're going to go into the breakout groups to really begin the production of our next 10-year plan. So we really need you to be here and be ready to go to help be involved. Thank you very much.